Hello again. I posted a video a while back where I play Papers, Please, and in it I said this. Papers, Please is quite possibly one of the most well-written tragedies I have ever encountered. Yeah, I stand by that. And today I'm going to explain why, because I don't think I did a very good job of it in the original video. To begin with, the entire country of Arstotzka, where the player character lives, is a tragedy in and of itself. As this note from Ezek, the rebel organization, states, war has made the government greedy and corrupt. You have seen for yourself. And, well, they're not entirely wrong. From our singular perspective, let's look at what exactly the Arstotzkan government has done. They assign me a job, presumably under threat of arrest if I do not comply, although we don't know that for a fact. This job requires me to always act in the government's best interests under threat of penalty for making a mistake and arrest if I so much as acknowledge the rebels' existence. Right away, we have essentially been told that the government's authority is absolute, and they will not tolerate dissent. I can understand the whole rebels will be arrested thing, but I have been placed in a situation where I am, basically, the person responsible for enforcing every policy they come up with, whim or otherwise. I am given no choice in the matter. My family hangs in the balance, and not just from the government directly. Poor performance equals poor pay, which equals no food. Essentially, I am trapped. Have you ever felt trapped? Worked a dead-end retail job for a company that doesn't care about you at all? A customer service role where you are a punching bag for customers so that the company can continue to ignore them? A desk job that serves no role other than to push papers around? It's actually really easy to find yourself somewhere in life where you feel that your accomplishments and knowledge mean nothing. At any particular moment, it's easy to feel that you will eventually move on to something greater, but over time, what often happens is that you just stop being able to see the future. Your world is your work, and it is slowly killing you. There is essentially no hope. That is exactly what is happening to our protagonist. Except he is operating under the added pressure of a government that will allow its citizens to starve and then punish their families. A government that will execute rebels and then execute you for reporting them. A government that will hand you a gun rather than pay for a guard. Now, at any given point in time, it might not seem like the inspector is having a bad day. Looking at it one immigrant at a time, the job is not particularly difficult or involved. On a good day, I can earn upwards of $100, and that's a lot in this world. But that's not everything there is to it, right? The job is more than just sitting at a desk, comparing documents to a rulebook, and then applying a stamp. There are faces behind those papers, and try as you might, it is impossible to distance yourself from them. The inspector is not a robot, and neither are the people who pass through the booth. Aside from the tragedy you, the player, are living through as the inspector, there are a million more tiny tragedies passing in front of you every day. And you have a choice. Play a part in them, or worsen your own, potentially aggravating the government that is indirectly holding your family hostage. For many, this would be an impossible choice. I'd also just like to mention real quick that even if this weren't the case, even if the inspector's job were mentally fulfilling, he would have no life outside of it. Man works 12 hours a day, 7 days a week. I don't care what your job is, an 84-hour work week would take it out of almost anyone. Now, as complicated as the question of self-preservation versus generosity already is, exacerbating the problem is the issue of truth. We, sitting in this little box for literally half of our existence, have no way of knowing if what someone says is true. For example, this person who wants to enter to receive their life-saving surgery might well be telling the truth. Or they could have just read about it in the newspapers, like I did. So how do I solve this problem? Well, I perform a calculation in my head. If this person actually needs the surgery, and I turn them away, their life might be ruined. They might die. If they don't, if they're just using it as some excuse and I let them in, well, I don't know. They might be a drug smuggler, they might just be a desperate migrant trying to see their family. Either way, the possibility of their blood being on my hands outweighs what they might do if they're lying, so I let them in. It's hard enough making this decision once, but 2, 10, 100, 1,000 times, you start to run out of resources. There are a limited number of people you can help before your own family starts to suffer as a result, and then the choices become even harder. But you can't stop making them, over and over and over, or things will only get worse. For some people, this would be hell, a never-ending stream of vague and intangible trolley problems, and no matter what you do, someone gets hurt. Someone suffers. You, a stranger, your family, all of the above, and there is no escape. That is the real tragedy of this game. Beyond the tedium of an unsatisfying role, there are the countless little agonies you are forced to inflict on yourself and on the endless line of travelers. One choice is easy, 1,000 choices are hard. The accumulation of the pain is gradual, like that old metaphor about boiling a frog. An urban legend, most likely, and almost certainly biologically false, but an excellent analogy nonetheless. The story goes that if you drop a frog into a pot of boiling water, it will immediately jump out and save itself. But if you put it in a pot of room temperature water and slowly heat it, increasing the danger, the suffering, little by little, it will not notice. And if it does, it will be too late. According to modern science, the story is wrong on many levels. But just imagine for a moment our dear inspector, thrust into an initially simple position, but now forced to scan countless different types of papers, make life or death decisions he has an irregular stake in, and even shoot any intruders threatening his station. Any reasonable person, if assigned such a role, would have gone insane. But they have him by the throat. He is in too deep. And yet, there are other options. Izek, for one, requests favors. They make promises. They are the rebel faction, and they oppose what is happening here. At least in theory. I say in theory because we have no real knowledge of their actual objective. Terrorists, freedom fighters, call them what you want, but at the end of the day we just don't know anything about them, aside from what their own agents tell us, and what they tell us is, of course, what they want us to think. So now, on top of the choices we are forced to make over and over again, there is an even greater choice looming over us. Keep doing what we have been doing, or take the ultimate gamble. To trust someone we have never met, to trust a group that offers us help, to create a very real chance of death for ourselves and our family. It might get better, but by making this decision it might get infinitely worse. We might think it cannot get worse, but there is always room. A third option, though, presents itself near the end. Flee, escape this country, steal the passports of innocent Aberstani travelers, present them to a forger near the border, and pray. There is no guarantee that they will work. There is no guarantee that life in Aberstan will be better. We know nothing about this country. All we know is that it is a choice. Another choice. And so now we must decide. Remain loyal to the government in hopes that our dedication proves us worthy of better treatment. Or take an ultimate gamble. Pray for change, flee the country. Nothing is certain. Our inspector only knows what one of these options is like. And there is the distinct possibility that any of the other choices will be even worse, even if he plays his part perfectly. He is powerless. Almost nothing is up to him, except the initial decision. Beyond that, what happens to him is beyond his control. Truly, this is his hell. He exists to inflict government-sanctioned pain, with his own family on the line if he falters. Any chance of change or escape is accompanied by an equal, if not greater chance of failure, and possibly death. Every day he must relive the same torment, except the government makes it even more difficult for both him and the travelers. Nothing about this game is happy. The tragedy that our poor inspector must be party to every day that he comes into work is so excellently disguised as just another unpleasant job, but to say that would be the understatement of the century. He is trapped in the perfect prison. Not to be dramatic about it or anything, though. Sorry, I know this isn't really exactly a full review of the game. It's just something I've always felt about it every time I've played. Something it does really well. Something I've always wanted to put into words. That's what this video was. I'll have another Flash game review out on Friday, as promised. And until then, this is Jake, keeping my promise to nobody. Signing off.